Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we try to make sense of all the noise and give you some clear insights. Today, we're diving into a stack of sources, really looking at what's buzzing across the X platform. Global stuff, tech, some surprising moments too. Think of it as your shortcut to getting properly informed, fast.
Exactly. We've got about 14 posts here covering everything from, the economy, geopolitics, right through to the latest in AI. And what's really interesting is how these different threads kind of connect. It gives you that bigger picture, which you often miss just scrolling, right?
Totally. So whether you're prepping for something, catching up, or just curious, hopefully we'll connect some dots for you. Let's jump right in, starting with, well, money, our wallets. First up, this economic shift. A leading report shared this breaking news. U.S. gas prices have dropped to a four-year low, averaging $3.20 per gallon.
That sounds, well, pretty good, right? It does sound good on the surface, but the question is, why now? Well, this drop lines up pretty neatly with the recent Israel-Iran ceasefire. That definitely eased volatility in global oil prices. Brent crude, for example, it fell from like $81 down to $67 a barrel just since June 13th. That's a direct impact of less tension.
Okay, so geopolitics hitting the pump directly.
Pretty much.
Hmm.
But, and this is important, it's not the same everywhere. There are big regional differences. Look at California. They could actually see prices hit, get this, $8 a gallon by 2026.
$8. Why?
It's down to a 65-cent tax hike that starts July 1st, 2025. It's part of their low-carbon fuel standard, the LCFS. So yeah, you've got this national average dropping, but then specific state policies creating a totally different reality. It really highlights those policy contrasts.
Okay, from gas to city finances, New York's in the spotlight. At Wall Street Apes posted, New York is finished. Zohran Mamdani plans on making new laws saying it doesn't matter where companies are headquartered. If you do business in New York, they must pay his new increased corporate tax rate. Wow, that's aggressive.
Yeah, it's a very bold proposal, yeah. Zohran Mamdani, he's a Democratic Socialist, looks likely to be the next NYC mayoral nominee. His plan is to raise about $10 billion a year by matching New Jersey's corporate tax rate. That's 11.5%. And the kicker is it applies to any company doing business in New York, no matter where their HQ is.
So, trying to capture revenue from companies operating there, even if they're based elsewhere, what's the potential downside?
Well, the big worry is that it could scare businesses off, accelerate that trend we've already seen of companies and people moving to lower tax states like Florida. NYC's already lost, over 500,000 residents since 2020, mostly because it's so expensive.
Yeah.
Mamdani's plan also hits the top 1% of earners with a 2% increase. But, look at California. Again, similar policies sometimes backfire. Wealthy people can move, and you end up with less revenue, not more. It's really that classic clash.
Yep.
Progressive policies versus sort of traditional economic growth ideas.
And it's not just policy talk, it got personal fast. At Colin Rugg reported, New W rapper 50 Cent offers to pay socialist Zohran Mamdani over $250,000 to leave New York City after Mamdani called him out. I mean, that's quite something.
Oh, absolutely. 50 Cent's reaction just throws gasoline on the fire, doesn't
Yeah.
it? It shows that real-world tension. He's dead set against this tax hike, obviously, offering money to leave town. And it really personalizes the whole debate about wealth, taxes, who pays. And it's interesting coming from 50 Cent, given his background, versus Mamdani. It just highlights that massive divide in public opinion.
Yeah, definitely struck a nerve there. Okay, shifting gears again, another big economic headline. At Watcher Guru and at Unusual Whales both posted breaking. President Trump says he officially signed trade deal with China. Sounds huge, but what's the real story?
Right, you see that headline and think, wow. But you got to dig a bit deeper. Watcher. Guru's post kind of suggests it connects to recent talks, trying to fix that huge trade deficit we have with China, like $295 billion.
Yeah.
But then at Unusual Whales throw some cold water on it. They point out a similar claim popped up about 30 days ago, and nothing official ever came out. So maybe misinformation, maybe jumping the gun.
So skepticism is warranted here.
I'd say so. Especially when you look back. Remember the 2020 Phase 1 deal? China only met like 58% of what they promised to buy. Implementation is always tricky. Sure, lower tariffs could boost U.S. exports maybe $32 billion a year, but there are risks for retaliation, supply chains shifting again. And, the fact that at Unusual Whales included that crypto meme, this coin goes only up, kind of suggests mixing finance speculation with news. We need confirmation from solid sources, and right now, places like the World Economic Forum don't have specifics on this supposed deal.
Okay, so caution advised on that one. It feels like across the economy, we're seeing big shifts, big debates, and sometimes conflicting signals. Let's move from money to power. Geopolitics. This one from @NixOrder is a big claim. Hashtag breaking. President Trump has convinced Bibi Netanyahu to end the war in Gaza within 2 weeks, per multiple reports. I mean, that would be enormous if true. What's the framework suggested?
Yeah, enormous is the word. The Post outlines a potential plan where the UAE, Egypt, and a couple of other Arab states would step in to govern Gaza, replacing Hamas. The idea includes Hamas leaders going into exile and hostages being released. Now, this isn't totally out of the blue. Reuters recently reported on talks between the UAE, U.S., and Israel about exactly this post-war Gaza administration.
Okay, so there are some related discussions happening.
Right. And there's also the context of that reported U.S. strike on Iran back on June 25th. If that weakened Iran's nuclear program, it might create pressure in the region for peace deals. Trump's involvement also echoes, his Abraham Accords back in 2020, which did normalize Israel's relations with some Arab countries.
But these things are never simple, are they?
Absolutely not. History, like the Oslo Accords, teaches us that security cooperation is one thing.
Yeah.
But if you don't solve the underlying political issues governance, borders peace doesn't usually last. So any new Gaza plan would need serious monitoring and a real path forward politically.
Got it. And speaking of Iran, the strikes there, we're seeing very different takes online about how people are getting information. Adalalysis posted as a Monta DOW. This whole press conference is nothing but a smoke bomb, a staged circus.
Cool.
Pretty critical. But then you have @Elon Musk with this kind of sarcastic tweet juxtaposing a LinkedIn office with Iran supposedly targeting a top secret nuclear facility. It feels like a real information battle.
It really does.
Yeah.
And it shows how narratives get shaped, right? Brian Allen's post slams a Pentagon press conference, calls it a circus, points to a specific moment where the chairman apparently struggled with a question, suggests a lack of transparency. That perception gets amplified when you have conflicting official statements, too. Like Trump first saying the U.S. helped plan Israeli strikes, then later calling the intel very inconclusive, creates confusion.
And Musk's approach.
Totally different.
Yeah.
He uses irony, humor. He's mocking overblown security fears, probably referencing the actual U.S. strike on Iran's Fordow site, but doing it in a way that engages his followers through satire.
Right.
Both posts, though, really hammer home the need to be critical consumers of information, especially when things are moving fast and involve national security. Check the source, check the context.
Absolutely. Okay, let's shift from geopolitics to the tech frontier. AI is always moving fast. At Google DeepMind announced, we're fully releasing Gemma 3N, which brings powerful multimodal AI capabilities to edge devices. Sounds impressive. But edge devices, what does that actually mean for us?
Yeah, this is a pretty significant step, actually. Edge devices just means the AI processing happens right there on your device, your phone, your laptop, maybe smart speakers, instead of sending data back and forth to the cloud all the time.
Oh, okay. So it runs locally.
Exactly. And Gemma 3N is designed to do this efficiently, even on devices with just 2 GB of RAM. That's a big deal for privacy because your data stays local, and for speed because there's less delay. They're using new tech like Mapformer architecture, which helps it understand text and images, multimodal stuff, much faster on smaller devices, like up to twice as fast on mobile.
And the language support sounds broad, too.
Huge. 140-plus text languages, 35 multimodal languages. It's clearly a strategic move to make this kind of AI way more accessible globally, not just for people with high-end hardware or super-fast internet. It really could be a game changer for having smart features built right into our gadgets.
Interesting. Now, sticking with AI, but shifting to OpenAI, the hype machine is always running, isn't it? Kim Ismus posted this thesis. My thesis. He tested OpenAI's GPT-5 or something similar. Coincidence that Sam Altman is now following Yassine? I don't think so. The hype is real. Is the hype really real here?
Well, you also have to question the hype in tech, right? This post is pure speculation. It guesses that this researcher, Yassine Tassi, got early access to GPT-5, mostly based on Sam Altman following him recently in a couple of timely replies. Now, Altman has said GPT-5 is coming this summer, so there's something happening. But linking these specific dots, that's a leap.
And there's a darker context mentioned, too.
Regrettably, yes. The post alludes to Sudhir Balaji, who apparently raised concerns about OpenAI's practices and then died under circumstances that raised questions. While there's no proven link or foul play confirmed by any official source, it definitely adds a layer of, unease around corporate secrecy in this high-stakes field. It reminds us that hype isn't just organic excitement. Sometimes it's fueled by strategic leaks, speculation, all aimed at boosting interest, maybe even stock value, ahead of a launch. We've seen that pattern before.
So, again, critical thinking needed. Okay, from AI labs to actual outer space. At SpaceX, shared a link, Watch Dragon and the Ax 4 astronauts at space station. Pretty cool. And then at 07, the Jury guy posted this funny picture of a dog dressed as an astronaut. A different take.
Huh. Yeah, it's great how these things mix, isn't it? The serious achievement and the public's fun reaction. The SpaceX post marks the Axiom Mission 4 docking with the ISS. And what's really historic here is the crew astronauts from India, Poland, and Hungary. First time for those countries on such a mission. It really shows how space travel is changing. More commercial, more international. Private companies like SpaceX are enabling missions for nations that maybe couldn't run their own programs easily.
Broadening access.
Exactly. And that picture from that 070 guy, it just captures how space still grabs our imagination. People connect with it, get creative, celebrate it in their own way. Makes these big leaps feel a bit more human, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we've hit economics, geopolitics, cutting-edge tech. Let's bring it back down to earth, maybe some domestic policy and everyday stuff trending online. Healthcare is always a big one. Governor at Gavin Newsom tweeted this. Mike Johnson would hate for you to know that nearly 40% of his district is on Medicaid. It would be terrible if this information went viral. That's pretty direct political messaging.
Well, it's definitely pointed. Newsom's using sarcasm there to put pressure on House Speaker Mike Johnson. Johnson has backed Medicaid work requirements, and estimates suggest those could remove about 200,000 people in his home state of Louisiana from Medicaid coverage. Newsom's point is the irony pushing for cuts in a state, and specifically a district, that relies heavily on the program. Nearly 35% of Louisiana statewide and almost 40% in Johnson's district.
And nationally, Medicaid reliance is high too.
Very high, about 1 in 5 Americans. So it taps into a huge national issue. Of course, there's another layer of irony given California's own situation expanding Medicaid to undocumented immigrants, which is now costing billions, and led them to freeze new enrollments because of their state deficit. Politics and healthcare funding are always complicated webs.
Indeed. Okay, speaking of public figures, at Growing Daniel posted a clip of President Trump at a Special Olympics event saying, honestly, you can't throw this guy a curveball, he'll hit anything. What's the takeaway from that trending moment?
Yeah, that clip from a 2016 White House event went viral. It shows a specific side of his public interaction style. It highlights his ability to react kind of instantly, off the cuff, even in sensitive situations. In that clip, he handled a comment about hair color by making a quick, unexpected joke about the athlete's deceased father saying no because he's dead.
Which could have been awkward.
It absolutely could have been, but in that context, it seemed to work, diffused the moment with his particular brand of blunt humor. It showcases that quick-witted adaptability he has in public settings. It's a trait that, people either really respond to or really criticize.
Right. Okay, finally, something a bit lighter, but maybe still says something. At The Only DSC posted a video. This is why Doritos are kept behind plexiglass. But the video shows someone eating crumble cookies inside a Walmart. What's the connection?
Huh? It's funny how the internet connects things, isn't it? The post is making a joke, basically. It's humorously implying the person eating the crumble cookies might be stealing them, and then links it to that recent trend of stores locking up high-theft items like Doritos or detergent behind plexiglass. Crumble cookies, while super popular, have had their own little controversies too, so maybe that adds to the slightly critical, cynical tone of the joke.
So it's using cookies to comment on retail theft.
Pretty much. It's taking a simple everyday observation, someone eating cookies in a store, and turning it into a commentary on bigger anxieties about retail security, maybe consumer behavior. It shows how even mundane stuff can trend and tap into these larger conversations online.
Wow, okay. We've covered a lot of ground there. From global economics, geopolitical tensions, AI breakthroughs, right down to locked up snacks. It really feels like X is this constant stream, this pulse point for everything happening.
Absolutely. And I think what really jumps out from looking at all these posts together is just the sheer variety, but also how narratives form so quickly. Sometimes they're based on solid facts. Sometimes it's pure speculation. Sometimes it's humor making a point. It really, really underscores how important it is to think critically, to look for that deeper context.
Yeah.
It's not just what's trending, but digging into the why. Why does this matter? How are different people framing it?
Yeah.
And how do these seemingly separate things actually link up?
You got it. So for you, the learner, we hope this dive gave you some useful nuggets, maybe connected a few things you hadn't thought about, and save you some time getting up to speed. Maybe something to think about as you go through your day. How much of the information you see online is genuine insight versus, maybe performance or spectacle? And what does that say about how we all get our information now? Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll be back soon to unpack another set of sources for you.